hurt that much. She didn't make a sound. Olivia would have wrapped her hands around the other girl's throat right there if her palm weren't singing, if the cook weren't there to haul her off, if the gesture would have gained her more than a moment's pleasure and a week's punishment. So she'd done the next best thing. Stormed out of the stuffy tomb, the cook bellowing in her wake. And now she's in the garden shed, wishing she could make as much noise as the rain on the low tin roof, take up one of the neglected spades and beat it against the thin metal walls just to hear them ring. But someone else would hear, would come and find her in this small and stolen place, and then she'd have nowhere to get away. Away from the girls, away from the matrons, away from the school. She holds her breath and presses her burned hand against the cool metal shed, waiting for the ache in her skin to quiet. The shed itself is not a secret. It sits behind the school, across the gravel drive, at the back of the grounds. Over the years, a handful of girls have tried to claim it as their own, to smoke or drink or kiss. But they come once and never come back. It gives them the creeps, they say. Damp soil and spider webs, and something else, an eerie feeling that makes the hair stand up on their necks, though they don't know why. But Olivia knows. It is the dead thing in the corner. Or what's left of it. Not a ghost, exactly. Just a bit of tattered cloth, a handful of teeth, and a single sleepy eye floating in the dark. It moves like a silverfish at the edge of Olivia's sight, darting away every time she looks. But if she stays very still and keeps her gaze ahead, it might grow a cheekbone, a throat. It might drift closer, might blink and smile and sigh against her, weightless as a shadow. She has wondered, of course, who it was, back when it had bones and skin. The eye hovers, higher than her own, and once she caught the edge of a bonnet, the fraying hem of a skirt, and thought perhaps it was a matron. Not that it matters. Now it is only a ghoul lurking at her back. Go away, she thinks, and perhaps it can hear her thoughts because it flinches and draws back into the dark again, leaving her alone in the grim little shed. Olivia leans back against the wall. When she was younger, she liked to pretend that this was her house, not Maryland's. That her mother and father had just stepped out and left her to clean up. They would be coming back, of course, once the house was ready. Back then, she'd sweep away the dust and cobwebs, stack the pot shards, and make order of the shelves. But no matter how tidy she tried to make the little shed, it was never clean enough to bring them back. Home is a choice. Those 4 words sit alone on a page in her mother's book. Surrounded by so much white space, they feel like a riddle. In truth, everything her mother wrote feels like a riddle, waiting to be solved. By now, the rain has slowed from pounding fists to the soft, infrequent tapping of bored fingers, and Olivia sighs and abandons the shed. Outside, everything is grey. The grey day is beginning to melt into a grey night. Thin grey light lapping against the grey gravel path that surrounds the grey stone walls of Maryland School for Independent Girls. The word school conjures images of neat wooden desks and scratching pencils, of learning. They do learn, but it is a perfunctory education spent on the practical. How to clean a fireplace, how to shape a loaf of bread, how to mend someone else's clothes, how to exist in a world that does not want you, how to be a ghost in someone else's home. Maryland's may call itself a school, but in truth, it is an asylum for the young and the feral and the fortuneless, the orphaned and unwanted. The dull, grey building juts up like a tombstone, surrounded not by parks or rolling greens, but the gaunt and sagging faces of the other structures at the city's edge.